expected.
You gotta ask everybody before you start. Yeah. Yeah, it's so nice to meet you. Thanks for bearing with me in my schedule. I really appreciate it.
No worries. And I have to apologize
No
for
worries.
missing the first one. I'm glad it worked out and that we're here now.
Yes, I am too. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you found yourself at BU, what interested you to get into this, and just go ahead.
Of course, I am a Massachusetts native, so I've been here my whole life at this point.
Mhm.
I had big dreams of going down to Washington, D.C. to study political science as a high school student. And I toured the BU campus one time, like 3 weeks before applications were due, and just fell in love.
Oh.
There's something about it, right? And 6 years later, surprising, but 18-year-old me, it was all I wanted. I think that the city of Boston provides a really unique opportunity in terms of politics, community, and how embedded the campus is within the city.
Mhm.
And it really allowed me, or I just felt a really strong desire to be part of a community and a school that bled into the city as easily as it did. Um, throughout my entire school career within BU, which I got both my master's and bachelor's there,
Period.
I worked full time. I lived at home. Like I was very much not having the typical school experience of being on campus or just working part time on campus. Um, and so I think for that reason, being a student that commuted, Boston University, being in the city of Boston, felt much more at home than commuting onto this like remote campus somewhere in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So Boston worked very well for my situation, but it also just worked very well for my actual learning styles. And the professors here, I think, were some of my favorite people I've learned from in my entire life. I think BU does a great job of having that diverse staff, um, and everything from international relations to media science classes. I've been able to get so many perspectives that I really don't think I'd have gotten elsewhere.
Hmm. Okay, wait, you just told me about political science, but I know you're like literally a web designer.
Yes.
Enlighten me on how you found yourself between the two. Because I'm a media science major. So like I get having a love for media and like media relations, etc. But how did you find this political science aspect? What was that about?
That's a great question, and one that I get so often, and I feel like I have a different answer to every time. But it really comes down to me for systems. I
Mm.
think that I am a systems oriented person, and I very easily see the lines when we talk about politics between the institutions that we have, and when we talk about media science, the institutions that we have there. I think that A, systems, and B, the people, where politics is all about being able to understand what people want and what people need. And when you get into something like web design or media science, it's instead of a constituent, you're looking at a user, or instead of a constituent, you're looking at an audience.
Right.
Um, and it's a lot of the same principles of persuasion and of how do we get people to buy into things, just in, I think, media science, a little bit more of a low stakes environment,
Yes, for sure.
than politics is.
Wow, very interesting. I've never thought about it that way. But when you put it like that, that does make sense because I do find myself thinking of political science the same way. I'm like, why aren't
Right?
we all just guys, like we're literally just bad. Like we're just we can easily influence everybody to do X, Y, and X, Y, and Z. I
Exactly.
get it. Let's get into the topic of your TEDxBU speech. So you talk about the paradox of you hating most web designs, despite being a web designer yourself. So can you elaborate on the aspects of design that you find the hardest to navigate? And then two-parter, what would you do to change that?
That's a great question. And I think I would answer by giving you the opposite of what I love about the web.
Okay.
I got into web design because of the other half of me that is so passionate and sees the world as or the internet as almost this playground, right? Growing up, I was on Tumblr building blogs.
Right.
I was surfing the net in that very OG way.
Yes.
Um, and I feel like as I've gotten older, that's been lost.
I agree.
It feels my friends all the time. Just last night, my roommates are like, does social media feel less fun than it used to? And
Yes,
it does. I think in
it
a
does.
lot of
It
ways it
really does.
does. I think most of that points to, and this will get back into that other element, most of the frustration or confusion that I feel around web design brings us back to capitalism, as so many things do. Again, connecting to that political science piece, there's just so many things that want our attention and that see our attention as currency in a way that wasn't the case 10 years ago, in a
Mm,
way that people hadn't figured out yet 10 years ago. And now that there's so much competing for our attention, everything's getting a little bit more bold in how it's keeping you on or how it's making you kind of funnel down a certain pathway, whether that's scrolling forever on your phone or that's endless pop-ups when you are just trying to get to the website and just trying to find an answer to something, wading through all of these sponsored results. I think there's two ways we can think about an answer, and one is resisting, which is tiring. We resist in
yes,
politics.
very
Like we spend so
exciting.
much time trying to resist, and at some point, it's like, is this really worth it? Yeah, you can go on all of these like roundabout ways of finding different social media sites and trying to outsmart the system that's trying to outsmart you. Um, but I think a better option and something we all need a little bit more of is reclaiming that
Mm,
space and reclaiming that time. Um, my TED Talk has went through a lot of drafts at this point, but right now it's really focused on this analogy between the internet and the web and our experience kind of shopping in real life at a grocery store or at a department store. And I think that we can reuse a lot of the same tactics that we have in real life that make shopping fun or that make something like going to the farmer's market an enjoyable experience in the same world of the web, where it can be as easy as making a list or being a little bit more intentional about what you're actually trying to do, building that trust with yourself and how you use the internet, how you use a computer, how you use social media. But it can also look like exploring, perusing, browsing. When I go to a bookstore, like it feels a lot different than scrolling because I'm being intentional about what I'm exploring. And I'm saying I want to come over and look through the uh, nonfiction section. I don't think I've ever said that in my life, but
but you
maybe
know,
one day I
I
will.
get it.
So that's my answer.
Okay, okay. Wait, you mentioned quite a few things that I also wanted to touch.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I think you're right that it definitely all goes back to capitalism, and unfortunately, like until we somehow demolish that, it's gonna be
Exactly.
a really long time. But especially after like, let's take TikTok for example. The ads were kind of there, but then after the ban, it very much is like, stop selling me these
What is this?
why we're being sold steppers, uh, stretch bands. We're being sold like pills to make you skinnier. Like it's a bit ridiculous, and it's like consuming the entire For You page, which was very unlike what TikTok had intention. I can't even say intention. I don't know what the people's intention was, but what it had initially started off as, and it kind of makes it a little unfun because everybody's like, my algorithm has changed. Like this isn't even what I want to see anymore. I think that's very interesting. And then your last part about make using the social media as like as if you were grocery shopping. People don't even grocery shop no more. Like they get
Right?
easy, like DoorDash, Instacart, like people have found like obviously convenient ways to get their groceries to them, but I think we're lacking that whole aspect of being able to go out there and view different aspects of items and
You
stuff.
know,
We're lacking. We are lacking that.
my TED Talk might have to turn into a trying to get everybody to go back to the grocery store. That
Just
might be
start
step
going
one.
out to places again. Like
Literally,
we all
touch
complain about these
grass.
phones, but we're all still using the phones. Like we need to go out there. And it's so hard, like on a personal level, and then also like explaining to people like I love social media, I love calm, but I
Yes,
hate social media and I hate calm.
yes, exactly.
Exactly. Like I completely understand the paradox that you're speaking about because like I've just deactivated both of my Instagram accounts because I hate the app.
Yeah,
but I love posting on Instagram.
I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna be right back.
Give me 2 weeks, guys. I'm coming right back. I just needed a break, you know? So yeah, kind of to that point, like we can get into my next question. So as a creative myself, I have a lot of love and appreciation for the benefits that the internet and social media provides for us. You just said Tumblr. I remember my days.
Oh yeah.
Social media and the internet gives us a platform to share our work, connect with other creatives, and like just it gives us a way to learn and like advance our self-development. Can you share one of like your mm, favorite like insert blank, whatever your favorite part of it, aspect,
Hmm,
whatever, just share. I would love to hear.
that's a great question. I think my
It's very
favorite thing,
loaded, yeah.
yeah, right? Let me are newsletters.
Oh wow.
I
Interesting. Nobody likes newsletters. That's so interesting to
right?
hear.
I am a bit of a crazy person to say the least with my email inbox. It is tight. I keep that tight as I can.
Right.
Um, but I am subscribed to a few newsletters
Mhm.
from kind of the New York Times to more personal kind of independent media. And I'm sure as a media science student, you've seen that it's a small trend at this point, but I think a lot of our news is moving toward independent content creators rather than like The Guardian or New York Times.
Yeah.
And so I'm subscribed to a few of those. I'm also within web design, subscribed to a few people within and the environmental stuff and tips. I'm subscribed to a few people. And a lot of them just send out kind of once a day or once a week a newsletter with a list of links that they recommend and things that they've been poking around on the internet and found useful or interesting. I spend my entire morning, like I literally act like I have a whole newspaper out in front of me, looking through these links and opening the tabs. And it's just allowed me to see a completely new side of the internet that goes beyond social media and really is again starting to focus on individual blogs that people have,
Mhm.
individual microsites that people have created, and little small games that people have out there. It's allowed me to see so much more of the world, it feels like, and see that there's so much more out there beyond just social media at this time on the web. The web is still that kind of like beautiful Wild West place that I am remembered from 12 years old. It's just a little harder to find some of those nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
But I think the newsletters I've subscribed to, or whatever you want to call them, have done a great job in bringing some of that back.
Okay, interesting. I also mess with the newsletter real bad. When I wake up, the first thing I check is BU Today to see what they got going
Yeah,
on in the email.
it's
Yeah.
interesting. They have
Yes, it is.
sometimes they have some good little
This
tidbits
is
and
a
stuff.
credible source. Exactly. It is a credible source. But I know a lot of people do not check their emails. Like, I think it gets overwhelming for them. So I think,
It is.
yes, it's very overwhelming. And I think that kind of goes back to your point of like, it's so hard to navigate websites and stuff when you have a bunch of different ads or just any distraction in your face from getting to like the root of what you actually came to this site for. So why don't you like define design ethics in like the simplest of terms for anybody who doesn't necessarily know what's going on?
Design ethics at the most basic level is bringing morality into the decisions you're making
Yeah.
when you're actually doing design. And it's actually spending a moment to take a step back and think, how is what I'm designing right now, how is something as small as what this button says going to impact everything from the social, emotional health and well-being of somebody else to what it's saying on that more meta level about politics. I
Right.
think the beautiful thing about design ethics is that it means something different to every person depending on what ethics means. And for some people, ethics is really focused on that more interpersonal state of how do you act when you meet a stranger on the street. And for other people, ethics is really more of that systematic or societal level of what are the political choices we're making in this country.
Right.
And design ethics follows that same line. You can look at it as when I enter a website and I'm bombarded with cookies, what does that say about the how much the website cares about me as a person?
Yeah.
Also, a step back, what does that say about how society has started to greet people and what's acceptable for how we greet people these days?
Very interesting. It'll never really, I don't think we'll ever be able to really grasp the way that the internet affects the way that we interact with each other on like a personal level.
Oh
I don't think
no.
we're ever going to be able to like really see or like really write down every single implication that comes from that. So that's very interesting that you say that. I think that's very, very real, very real. And I think it's hard to describe to people at times because nobody really wants to think that deep about it. Like, they kind of just want to be like, I'm just here to get my new bikini or get my new blender and like just go. But like you don't realize like this stuff is really impacting you every day, every moment of your life. Yeah.
Just trying to explain to people what my job is is usually
Exactly.
enough of an uphill battle in the first place of being like, yeah, I decide like where buttons go on a screen or like I decide like what the actual typography font and stuff looks like.
Yeah,
And they're like, that is so inconsequential. But in the same way that I don't know, how you treat one person or how you treat one stranger says a lot about who you are as a person. What one tiny design decision does within one moment has all of these ripple effects on
right.
an entire website, an entire ecosystem, the entire internet, and then your experience on that.
Exactly. Because why would you keep looking at a website that you can't even navigate? You're never going to open this up again. So now you're going to move on to the next one. And now I've lost all my customers, my whole audience, money, because going back to capitalism, I've just lost everything. So now I need to make it well, I can't say accessible because I can't say that it is acceptable, but I want to make
It's
it
not.
more aesthetically pleasing to y'all so that y'all can interact with me and give me what I need. So yeah, going back to that definition of ethics, very wonky for everybody.
Very wonky. And oh, what is the word there? Transactional.
Oh
Very
yeah,
transactional.
absolutely. Absolutely. You kind of mentioned like being more intentional with how you're using these sites. Do you have like a piece of advice on how to move more intentionally?
Make a list.
Okay,
It sounds
exactly.
and well, like and I think it sounds so silly and like almost like why would I make a list to go on the
Before I
internet?
go on the internet, yeah.
But it's just as small as spending a moment before you open the laptop or before you open the phone of saying this is what I'm here to do.
Hmm.
And this is why I'm performing this action before you start performing it,
Right.
because otherwise I end up with seven things in my cart and
You lose the
then I
plot
have to add two
immediately.
more to get free shipping. And then there's that little people who chose this item also liked, and I'm looking through all that. And I just came here for shoelaces. I do not need 12 things and
Right.
$75 worth of stuff.
Right.
All the way to I'm looking something up for school and I'm trying to find an answer to some sort of problem or whatever. There's no problem with me being on the Wikipedia page for highlighters when I was trying to Google some media science question answer. But why? How did I end up here? And
Yeah.
bringing that little bit of intentionality in whatever way works for you is very important.
Right. What way works for you besides me? Like into making the list, you are very specific about I'm here to do this one thing, and once I get this one thing, I gotta close out of this app. Like that's it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna start doing that because I get distracted very easily. Or honestly, I
So
don't even
easily.
buy the stuff in the cart. Like I'll be like, "No, I'm gonna wait and think about this. And then it never gets bought.
Exactly. And it's that it comes back to that more kind of meta level of mindfulness and building trust with yourself.
Yeah.
Of once you start exercising a muscle of intention, um, your how you see yourself it improves as well.
Yeah.
Of I know that I can control myself on my phone, or I
Yeah.
know I can control myself when I open up my laptop.
Exactly.
Um, it helps the mental.
Hmm. Wow, that was great. Do you have anything else that you would love the people to know prior to coming to your talk? Like anything?
I would say that I really believe that the internet still can be the fun, playful space that we imagined it to be.
Mhm.
Um, it's just a little harder to find, and that doesn't mean it's not
Great closure. You won't even need to say no more words.
there.
That was a great closure. I love that. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Of
Taking up some
course.
time of your day. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on before we hop off of here?
No, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, of
Best of luck
course.
with everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.